Now, San Francisco has become the first US city to ban the sale of e-cigarettes, pending clear research into their health effects. Officials there have voted for the ban, and the mayor says she intends to sign it into law, but it might prove particularly controversial given the fact that the Californian city is home to the manufacturer of the most popular e-cigarettes in the US. Dr. Leon Shahab is from University College London. He's one of Europe's leading researchers into the health effects of smoking compared to vaping.
When you smoke a cigarette, as the name implies, you burn something. Whereas when you use an e-cigarette, you don't really burn anything. You heat a liquid that contains nicotine and propylene glycol, vegetable glycerin, and some flavorings to about 200 degrees Celsius, and then you inhale a vapor, an aerosol. Whereas with a cigarette, what you do is you burn tobacco. And that is the main problem, really. And what happens when you burn a tobacco product is that you create loads and loads of tar, which gets into your lungs, and therefore it's going to harm your health. Whereas when you vape, you just inhale a mixture of aerosol, which is relatively harmless.
So actually, the results of your experiment are quite clear, aren't they? There is a huge advantage in terms of the amount of harmful substance you inhale, smoking e-cigarettes to smoking a cigarette.
Well, may I just correct you there? You don't smoke an e-cigarette, because there's no combustion going on, so you vape an e-cigarette. And yes, we've done some more controlled experiments where we asked people who have been long-term users of cigarettes and long-term users of e-cigarettes to come into the laboratory, and we took samples of their bodies to look at the levels of exposure to these kind of harmful chemicals. And what we find is that compared with cigarette smokers, an e-cigarette vapor reduces the exposure to these harmful chemicals, toxicants, carcinogens, which are linked to lung disease and cancer as well as to heart disease, by around 95%. Or more. So they're magnitudes of order safer than smoking cigarettes.
So what do you think of the San Francisco ban, or the intended ban?
Well, I think it's quite inconsistent insofar as the most dangerous product there is, which is the combustible cigarette products, are still legally available. And we know, based on research that I and others have done, that e-cigarettes are magnitudes of order safer than cigarettes.
In other countries, it's different, and there are e-cigarette bans in place in several countries, aren't there?
Yeah, that's correct. So there are some bans in place in places like Brazil. However, at the same time, and this is for the same reason as people have argued in San Francisco for the ban, which is that we don't know the long-term health effects. And the reason for this is that we have to really wait a couple of decades to know the long-term health effects. However, I should say that other countries, including Canada and New Zealand, have gone the other way because they've been persuaded by the fact that evidence that has come to light over the last 2 years or so, which shows that e-cigarettes are very helpful in getting smokers to stop smoking, and that they are actually likely to be much less harmful than cigarettes, that they're probably beneficial to public health. And so they have actually gone against the idea of banning them. Rather, they have made them legal.
The manufacturer of this popular e-cigarette in the US, which is based in San Francisco, said that a move like a ban would create a thriving black market. Do you agree?
One of the unintended consequences of a ban like this is that it may mean that smoking prevalence, which has continued to plummet among adolescents in the US, may increase again if adolescents don't have access to products that produce lower risk. So they may, instead of going on to try an e-cigarette, if they would have smoked a cigarette, and they go on straight to try a cigarette. If there's a choice, I think as a parent, I'd be much happier if my child used an e-cigarette rather than a cigarette, because we know they're likely to be much less harmful.
Dr. Leon Shahab there, Associate Professor in Health Psychology at University College London. You're with the BBC World Service. This is NewsHour.